Welcome to the Living Your Legacy podcast.
I'm Kim Rain, a life coach and health mentor with over 13 years experience helping people lower their stress and anxiety, lose weight, sleep better and live happier, healthier, more purposeful lives.
I'm Helen Ranson. I've worked for 20 years as a self-employed psychotherapist and coach, helping clients of all ages and backgrounds who've experienced emotional issues, phobias and personal traumas.
The Living Your Legacy podcast is a quest to create amazing life stories, hang out in the moment and live a life full of joy.
Living Your Legacy is a podcast for anyone who wants to get off the sidelines and create the legacy they want to leave behind today.
Okay, hi guys, welcome to this week's Living Your Legacy podcast. Today I am here with a special guest. I've got an exciting episode for you. I'm here with Michelle Mills-Porter, who is going to talk us through a story and just kind of what happened after that. So I'm going to do a bit of a spoiler alert to start with. So Michelle was in the tsunami in Sri Lanka, but actually after that, she's going to tell us a little bit about that. But actually what Michelle's really great at and what she's spent the last 10 years doing is really crafting and perfecting a suite of tools that have helped people align and be themselves. And as she said, so that they don't need to go through a life-threatening disaster to have that breakthrough moment and to realise themselves. And she's on a mission to help people live in alignment and to basically achieve ultra performance and fulfillment, which is what we are all about. So, Michelle, hi, thank you for coming on.
Hi, Kim, it's my absolute pleasure. Hi, everyone.
So let's get straight into where this started. So, the tsunami, wow, tell me about that.
Well, I thought I was on top of the world because I'd started a business from scratch. By year 3, we got to almost 500,000 turnover. Wow. We were winning every single award you can imagine. And I was just thinking, this is it. This is my baby. This is my creation. This is what I was put on this planet to do. And decided to take a couple of celebratory holidays. So Stuart and I, my partner, we decided to learn to dive in the UK. And then we were going to go on some exciting holidays. So we found ourselves in the Maldives, and then we took our first holiday away at Christmas, and that was 2004. And we'd literally been there a couple of days and we had a room on the 3rd floor in the Hikkaduwa Beach Hotel. And we woke one morning and bang, we were right in the middle of it.
Unbelievable. I remember waking up that morning and just, words failing me. So I can't imagine what it must have been like to be right in the middle of it.
Well, if you want me to take you there for a second, I'll gladly do that, because we'd got up in the morning and we went down to have breakfast with our friends, and the Sri Lankans had put on this fantastic party for us the night before. And to be honest, we had some pretty mean hangovers. And so we got up for breakfast like we promised, met our friends, and it was a glorious day. And a couple of people had said, so we missed the warning signs, a couple of people had said, did you hear that earthquake earlier on? And we were like, no. You sure it wasn't ghosts in your room? And, just really big. And everyone was commenting on how far the sea had gone out, and people were actually walking out to the rocks in Hikkaduwa where they would normally snorkel. But we just thought it was, unusual and interesting. But, we went back to bed to nurse our hangovers. And it was a little bit later that we heard this screaming and shouting, and we thought, oh, God, who's this hotel letting now? Going to ruin our holidays. And just pulled our pillows over our ears and tried to block it out. And then later on again, we heard this incessant banging, and we were thinking, oh, great, we've got this hotel, which is now, it's not the best hotel, I don't know how many stars it had, but it was fairly basic. And we were thinking, great, now they're doing building work. Good choice. Right. And it was then that my husband got up and he pulled the curtains open, and he just said to me, I think you better come and look at this. And I immediately knew that something was wrong. So I jumped out of bed and went to the window, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. There was water everywhere. There was this sound like it was like there was a storm outside, which is what really woke us, and we couldn't understand what that was because we knew it had been a beautiful day. But when we realised what it was, there was still blue sky, it was still a gorgeous day, but the sea was all around us. And that kind of sound of storm and rushing water and stuff like that, that was the palm trees outside my hotel room being washed around in the water. So there's me on the 3rd floor, and the water is, just a few feet below me. I could have reached down and touched it, and the whole world had gone. And it was terrifying. I can't tell you what it felt like. We had no idea how high the water was going to go or what. It was just a massive state of shock.
What was your reaction in that moment? What was your initial body? What happened? I mean, how do you...
So in a situation like that, where it's clearly life or death, the body takes over. So the body, kind of expels everything from every orifice. Let me just say that.
Especially with a hangover, I bet it did.
Well, yeah, and it prepares you. It gets ready for fight, flight, or freeze, or whatever it is that your amygdala part of the brain is telling you to do. And so it just prepares you and gets you ready. So the mind is going 10 to the dozen. I'm thinking things like, oh my God, this is incredible. Get your camera and record it because I've mentioned like it. And, maybe we can use the footage of the dive centre to be able to get some insurance money. And then I was also incredibly upset and angry because I felt completely left behind. I felt completely abandoned. The feeling of abandonment swept over me. There was no warning. There was nobody knocking on our door. There was no alarms going off, no one, waiting to see if we were okay. And so there was that feeling of abandonment as well. There was also the feeling of, we've got to get out there and help people, but how can we get down? What can we do? We can't get out. And there wasn't a single other person in sight. So we couldn't see anyone. It was like the end of the world, Kim. It was like the world had stopped and we were the only people left on the planet. That's what it felt like.
It's unbelievable. And then I remember, because the first time I heard your story, Michelle, was a few years ago, and that's why it just came back to me, was just what happened after that, how you spent the week after that. Because when you hear this story and you aren't there, you assume, oh, that's terrible, and then all the water subsided, and then everybody got on with their lives and went home.
Yeah.
That isn't how it played out.
No, well, it doesn't go away. That's the thing. I actually had somebody the other day. In fact, I get this quite a lot. People say, "Oh, were you in the wave? Were you actually in the wave?" As if it's some kind of qualification to say that you've survived this tsunami, and it's really not, because we were on never eat shredded wheat. We're on the southwest coast. I always have to do that. Southwest coast of Sri Lanka. So we didn't get the tall 30-foot wave. What we got, and this is what I found out afterwards from our friends that were on the beach when it hit. It's like the tide came in, but a wave came on top of that wave. So it just started to come in and creep in faster and faster.
Right.
So they were kind of like pulling their things back, thinking, oh, that's a big wave, and then pulling their things back, and and then all of a sudden just this massive rush and just this unbelievable power just taking everything with it. And it must have been extremely frightening to be in that first wave, but that is not where it ends, because the wave comes back, it subsides, and then the tide comes in again, and so when we managed to finally get down from our 3rd floor hotel room, we found 2 people that were from our dive group actually. They were on the opposite side of the road, and they were kind of waving at us, and we managed to half wade and half swim once the water went down enough, and we crossed the road and we went with them. And we thought we were better off being in the hotel.
Yeah.
It was a sounder building, but when we got to their side, we could see that actually the whole hotel seemed to be lilting towards the sea. And what happened is that wave kept coming in and kept coming out, and we had to live in that environment, and we were there for a week and as refugees. So whilst we were there were plenty of times that we went back and we tried to go back, and my husband in particular, he went back and he was breaking down the doors in the hotel. Don't tell the hotel because they might see it. But it's kind of, you think it's the end of the world, and you don't know how you're going to recover from this. So he was breaking the doors down to try and get people's medication, to try and get people's passports. There are medical equipment that people needed, and he was out there kind of getting that stuff. Every time he left me to go and get that stuff, my heart just just went with him because I didn't know if he was going to come back. So don't get me wrong, it wasn't just one wave. There was a week of living like this, a week of trying desperately to save people, to put people back together, to help them get on with their lives, to help recover dead bodies. I mean, it's horrendous, and I can't explain everything. You know, I'm just going to have to write a flipping book, aren't I?
Yeah, you are going to have to write the book.
It's going to have to come.
I think as well for you, because of how it helps. You know, I'm a great believer, and I know this stuff, but you were there for a reason. I do believe in that, you know, and how that then helped you to go on, because for that week you must have, I mean, I think that the worst thing is uncertainty, isn't it? It's not knowing if that wave's going to come again, not knowing if you're really safe.
Oh, yeah. And there's a story, I won't spoil it, but there's a story that I tell within my keynote where basically the wave did come again, and it came in the middle of the night, and we were as high as we could be. We couldn't get any further. That feeling, you can't deny it. If you're completely authentic, then you'll tell the truth. And what happens is you get these fleeting thoughts of, oh, well, whatever, go for it. You know, this is the end. And that's just being authentic and being human. There were points throughout that week where you think, this is it, gave it a good go, you know, but it's come back. So it was incredibly traumatic. But I think at the same time, I was learning so much, and the gifts, I would go through that a million times again for the gift that it gave me, Kim, you know, because what I saw is I realised that when you're in a life or death situation, people don't hide behind their mask. They have no title to hide behind. They have no role to play. You just see straight through to the core of that human being. And we're transparent animals. You know, in that situation, you can see right to the core of someone.
And everybody's equal.
I think the thing that surprised me more than anything, Kim, is that everyone has this magnificence. We are inherently good. That's the thing that I cannot bang home enough. We are inherently good. You know, there's a beauty inside of us. When you see somebody put their life on the line for a complete stranger, when it's called for, you know what it is. That's the goodness of humanity. And yes, there are people out there who are evil and, you know, and wrong and corrupt and all the rest of it. And I don't know what's going on in their brains, but inherently, I believe that we are truly born equal and good, and that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead too much, but you mentioned something that really stuck with me in a talk that you gave. And that was that, you know, that you say that as a race, if we ever need to, we would come together as the human race, no matter what's going on. And I just found that really heartwarming, you know, because actually it's a bit of a worry if you look at the world as to how it is now.
It is. And I think this is what I try and remind people. You know, when they're arguing about politics and, you know, and all that kind of stuff and getting their knickers in a twist over the simplest things, you have to remember the words of your grandparents. You know, when you hear an old biddy saying, what we need is a good war, I understand what they mean now. What they need is what they're saying is what we need is something that is a common enemy, because having a common enemy brings us together and it puts all of that goodness together. And it gives us this collaboration. It gives us this camaraderie that, you know, that is just incredible. And it doesn't matter how many cliche films you watch, you always get the tingles when you see humanity coming together. And that's what we got after the tsunami, because it was the biggest natural disaster in our living history. And it felt like a vibration around the planet with everyone feeling and caring and coming together.
Yeah, and I mean, like I say, I remember where I was when Nelson Mandela came out of prison. I remember where I was the morning that I turned that telly on, and I just could not believe what had happened in the world. And the feeling of just helplessness, of just wanting to do anything that you could to help.
I think that's the key thing, because you had an upper hand. We didn't have the news. I managed to get one text message back to my sister and to my sister-in-law, and it said, there's been a bit of a flood, but we're okay. I'll contact you later. And that was it. The mobile signals went down, everything went down. That was it, end of communication. But at least I knew that I got that message back. Now, when we all got back to Jimmy Lal's garden, Jimmy Lal was a village elder in there who happened to live very high up on the hill. So that's where we...
in his garden.
Yeah, and there were loads of us just in this garden, just kind of wearing what we were wearing when the tsunami hit. And, but there were some incredible things that went on. The first thing was the fact that I had my old Nokia mobile phone, which was now had no battery and, all the rest of it. And someone else had a SIM card, someone else had a charger, and we just managed to patch together one working phone. And then I remember making sure that everyone got one phone call home to let their loved ones know that they were okay. And we got everyone. And bear in mind, there was one Japanese girl there. We were all from different countries. We were all from different walks of life. Some of us didn't speak the same language. And this one poor girl from Japan, she was beautiful and tiny and frail and so alone. I just wanted to hug her. She had no one that could speak her language. And when we gave her the phone and she made that one phone call home, it was just incredible because I knew that she connected and, she managed to let them know that she was okay. And it's little things like that you don't realise how much you're affecting other people all around the world just by one little thing,
Yeah. And then when you came home, what was next for you when you came home? Because, it's not the usual coming back off holiday.
No, we managed to get back. I'm not going to bore you with the whole story, but it was the Belgian army that got us out. They put on an aeroplane and got us back to Belgium, and we couldn't get the British to not even collect us from Belgium, let alone Sri Lanka.
Really?
So, yeah, I'm not going to get all political and all this.
But...
we were totally abandoned. And me and my friends, we were avoiding the news cameras at first. For the whole week, we were avoiding them. But when it came to getting home, we just went out and did all these interviews saying no one is helping us get home from Britain. There is, we can't get anything. And right at the very end, they managed to they put an aeroplane on to take us back from Belgium to the UK. But, my parents and, Stuart's parents and everyone else's family, they were all ready in their cars, ready and waiting to drive to Belgium and come and get us.
Unbelievable.
So I think one thing during the time I was there, I didn't think about my business, this baby that I created, my wonderful creation that I was so proud of. I didn't give a crap about it. I didn't worry about my clients. I didn't worry about my sales figures. That's not the kind of thing that you think about. What you think about is your family, your loved ones, your nieces and nephews, and playing Scrabble with your parents. And when you sit there and people are saying, when we get home, what are we going to eat? And everyone's saying, I want a curry, or I want this, or I want a Mackie D's. And I'm like, I want my mum-in-law's roast potatoes. And it's little things like that keep you going. But when I got back, I just didn't want to go back to work. So I had to wait until the weekend, and I went into my office and I walked into my boardroom and I just looked around at all of these trophies and all of these endorsements and these glitzy awards ceremonies that we'd been to. And I just felt physically sick, Kim. I didn't understand, but I just hated it.
Changed for you, hadn't it? Everything had changed.
I didn't know. It took a long time for me to realise. I know exactly what it was now. I know exactly what it was, but I didn't know at the time. All I knew is that I'd lost the love for one thing that I thought was important in my life.
Yeah.
Just didn't have the love for it anymore.
And then an identity that goes with that as well.
Yeah. I saw in the reflection of that cabinet, I saw a narcissistic, fame-hungry little girl that was trying to prove her worth in the world. And I just realised how unimportant that was, Kim. I just realised that none of that matters. I look back now, and having done so much work, because I just dived into learning more about what I'd seen. So I started to learn more about human behaviour and what makes us tick and what makes us behave the way we do and what's at the core. What did I see? When I was looking at people, how can I get to that very essence of a human being? And that's why I set about, creating all these tools that I've created to help people to do that without having to go through a life or death situation. And I look back now and I realise exactly what it was. I had not been aligned with my core values. I thought I was, but it took the tsunami to wake me up and shake me up and say, that is not you.
But I think as well, it's so hard to be aligned with your core values in this life, in the way we live. It's very difficult because there are so many distractions and there's so much, keeping up with people, material, all of these things. There's so much that you're supposed to strive to be this particular person, and the comparison and all these things we put on for each other. How do you lose that sense of ego and so, without going through anything? Because I think I've seen it quite a lot in my work, and I know Helen has in hers, where trauma does that to you. It can help chip away at that. How do you help people that haven't been through that?
Well, it's easy now. If you'd have asked me a couple of months ago, it might not have been, but I've now finished my core values analysis, which in fact is called Essence, because I believe that it does help people to understand who they truly are. So just doing this analysis helps you reach inside yourself, and it gives you the answers, and it says these are your core values. If the answers that you've given are correct, then these are the core values that are important to you. And those core values, although the kind of premise, the theory is the work of Edward Spranger, which dates back to the 1920s. What I've done is I've written it myself. I've used that theory for those core values, but I've written the entire program myself, every single word. And so what happens is when you understand what those core values are, I also tell you what your motivations are, what's going to motivate you naturally, and the things that are going to make you feel like you're wading through mud, the things that are holding you back.
Yeah.
So it's taken me, 14 years to understand that in myself, because that's what I got when I was looking at around my boardroom, and in all the months afterwards, I was wading through mud. Things were not working. I wasn't in line. And it's only when you clear those things out of your life and finally work in alignment, with what's really inside of you, that's when the doors start to fly open. That's when things start to happen. That's when everything just flows, and that's what I'm trying to help people achieve. If you don't use a core values analysis, there are analyses out there can do it, or maybe even just taking some time to introspectively look at who you are.
Because I was thinking, I can think of a lot of, if I work with people that are in a more corporate, professional environment, that a lot of the time they do work on their values, and they're quite often maybe not the core values.
Yeah,
it's like they're influenced by society.
Yeah, and what you're supposed to say, oh, my core value is ethics and morals, or consideration, and these kind of things, and lovely words, that are plucked out of the thesaurus and stuck on the wall in the company. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And it's
a big mission statement.
Exactly. And you don't have to live by those core values, One of the values that I have is altruistic. That's one of my core values. And I didn't know that until I did an analysis, and it showed me what that was.
Can you define altruistic for me?
So altruistic is a desire to do things for other people. And if people have altruism or altruistic as one of their core values, then the kind of things that are going to fulfill them are doing things in service of other people, doing it, having benevolence. And that's what I found. So what we did is, when we got back, the people that I'd learned to dive with, and we've been out there together, we all managed to get back alive, which was a miracle. Yeah. And on New Year's Eve, the night we got back, we set up the Hikadua Village Fund, and I poured everything I had into that. So I was doing interviews from my hospital bed on the radio, and I did the television interviews and stuff like that to try and raise money. And that overtook everything, because I suddenly realised that was what I needed to do. That was fulfilling me. And it was incredible, because it just flooded. We raised £100,000 in 6 months.
Oh my word.
So that's what I'm saying. When you're in line with your true core values, the doors open and things start happening.
And that almost comes out of that trauma burrowed through that value.
Yeah. And I was sitting with we had a bit of counselling afterwards, and I was sitting with a clinical psychologist, and he said, Michelle, you're suffering from survivor's guilt. That's why you're doing this with the charity. I could have got up and thumped him square in the nose. I do not feel guilty for being alive. And I don't think subconsciously I feel guilty for being alive. I'm doing this because I know that I can. And I can help people, and I can do something that fulfills me at the same time as feeling like I'm doing something that is worthwhile, that is going to change lives.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say, really.
But you had survivor's gratitude, not survivor's guilt.
Yeah, and they can twist all the words they want and all the rest of it, however they want. But I wasn't doing that out of guilt. I was doing that because I was suddenly in line with my core values, and I realised that when I'm in line with my core values, nothing can stop. It's like an avalanche. It's like I'm using all these puns that horrific disaster situations.
Yeah.
But it is. It's just nothing can stop the flow when you're truly aligned with your core values. It's unbeatable. It's unstoppable.
Do you think that was what helped you heal? I mean, it must have taken.
Yeah, well, I'm still healing. I'm not going to say that I've got it right. I haven't. We're all still working through it. I still have. I mean, the trauma that my body went through, I picked up an internal infection, which stopped me ever being able to have children. I got slip discs. I got fibromyalgia. I had the worst eczema you've ever seen on my hands and my feet. I had to wear gloves for 3 years.
Right.
I got, this whole host, post-traumatic stress, adrenal exhaustion, just endless, and that was a sign of me not being in flow. So even though I was doing one thing with the charity, the rest of my life wasn't in flow.
Right. Your body had been thrown into absolute survival mode for a long time, for a week. That's a long, like you say, you lived as a refugee.
Actually, it doesn't stop. So one of the things is, this sounds quite petty in comparison, but one of the things is I have a real problem with weight. My body just hangs on to everything. It doesn't want me to lose weight. And there's a couple of people that I've seen that have said basically that they believe that my body is still in that fight or flight mode. I still have far too much adrenal, coursing through my body and lots of things. So actually your body doesn't come out of that mode. Even if you think, I'll tell you what it feels like. You're having a normal day and you're doing work as per usual. The tsunami was 14 years ago. It was a long time ago. And then suddenly something will happen and you just jump out of your skin and you're bang in survival mode. And so that muscle is being exercised.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go away easily. Your body says, I know we've been here before, and it immediately takes you back there. So people want to know what trauma is about, what PTSD is about, and all that kind of thing. That's a snippet, it's and another thing is people don't really understand what the trauma is. They say, you were in a wave, what a shame. Actually, no, it's more than that. It's seeing people lose their loved ones. It's seeing people trying to survive, people left with nothing, children left with no family and nowhere to live, breaks your heart. That's where the trauma comes from,
Particularly for someone like you, like you've just said what one of your core values is. So that's absolutely, you're a carer. You want to care, you want to look after people, to see that pain. I was thinking yesterday about speaking to you today, and that for me was exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, how do you forget seeing that misery in other people too?
Stuart and I, when we got back, on our office wall here, we had a big whiteboard, and when we got back, we wrote up in felt pen, we promise we will never forget.
Yeah.
And I have people tell me when do you think you're going to get over it and all that kind of stuff? And it's like, never, because I will never disrespect the people that lost their lives by not keeping that memory alive. I will always remember, I will always have gratitude for making it through, and I will always have sorrow for the people that didn't, and that is going to be, every year of my life, and until I'm not here anymore. That's a promise I made.
And I'm just listening to you say that and thinking about, being in flow and in line with your values, that you can do that in a way that you're coming from honour rather than a way of coming from reliving that to put yourself through hell. It's like you're doing it to honour those people.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because obviously this is the magnificence of humanity is my main keynote. And people sometimes say to me, Michelle, why do you keep putting yourself through it? Do you know what? I'm not putting myself through it. I've learnt where the edges are. I've learnt where the edge of the cliff is.
Yeah.
I've learned what I can deliver to people to help them feel it, smell it, live it, to understand it. And then I save them and give them the gifts and show them what the lessons were. So I'm not reliving it. I'm sharing what I believe that I was put on this planet to share.
Yeah. And you've said to me that in the face of the adversity, we have no mask to hide behind, no role to play and no title to live up to. So for you, how long did it take for you to, with all of that dropped away, how long did it take for you to think, right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to take this message to the world, this magnificence, and really share that?
Do you know what? It's a really good question. A lot of people look at me and say, oh, yeah, of course Michelle's a speaker. She's got a story. I was a speaker before the tsunami.
Right.
And I didn't speak about the tsunami for 10 years afterwards.
Wow.
Because I wasn't ready. I wasn't healed. I hadn't learnt the lessons. I hadn't shaped those lessons and made sense of it. And the last thing I wanted was anyone to think that I was dining out on the misery of other people. So I refused to talk about it. And it was a good friend of mine who basically said, Michelle, you do realise that this is something that other people need to hear. And it wasn't until I started to make sense of the lessons that I'd learnt and managed to put it together into something that is palatable for other people and beneficial to other people that it started to come together. And that's when I said, okay, now I'm going to release it and share it with the world. And the one that you saw was one of the very first times that I ever spoke about that story.
You can remember when I said to you, could you? Because it had such an impact on me. And you spoke about Human Magnificence then. You weren't just standing telling the story. You were telling your teachings from the story and how, it did really help me and it helped people in that room because it makes you realise, well, like I say, I think for me, where you say about, what humankind will come together if need be, I actually take so much comfort from that because when you look around in the world, you think, where is this magnificence? Sometimes it's not you can't really see it until something like that happens. So we need more people like you telling us how to be magnificent and how to dive in and delve in and pull that out of ourselves without, as you say, having to go through hell to do it.
Yeah, and, I'm still learning, but, I really do think that, that what I've created and what I give to people does help people do that, It's about understanding what it is that holds you back and letting go of that and clearing your path to just be who you are. And you might not have all the answers, and the answers that you have that you think are right may not actually be right, and they will constantly evolve. As long as you're working towards that, then we're doing the best that we can. And I have a very special necklace which comes from Alchemy, a really, really lovely little jewellery company that I adore. And this necklace is called Elysian light or something. It basically, what it represents is the God of the highest order looking down on humanity and crying, shedding a tear for what we've done to ourselves. And I wear that, this beautiful crystal with a teardrop underneath. I wear that because it grounds me. And it makes me remember I'm not naive just because I choose to look at the good side of humanity. I'm not naive. I know that there are evil people in this world. Yeah. I just choose not to give them any energy.
Yeah. And that, I was talking to some people the other day, I was talking and I was saying, what you're saying is we have a choice. We know that there is that, but we do have the magnificence in us. And we can always say we can choose to live in abundance or we can choose to live in lack. And by living in abundance, you know, we've got to pass our time on this planet at the best that we can and realise what we all have in us. I would love to hear, well, I did see on your Facebook thing that you did talk about this within a school. And this is where I really would love to see this kind of stuff being spoken about, because, you know, it's like you think that's your lot. So how did it go down in the school?
It was amazing, actually. I've done it in schools quite a lot, and I always work with the teachers to find out how much they want me to share and which angle they want me to concentrate on. But the one I did recently was for Kenilworth Sixth Form, and these are young adults that are doing their exams at the moment, and I wanted to give them an alternative viewpoint. I wanted to let them know that even if they're making choices now, they can still change those. They don't have to live that path. They can change them in the future. And if they don't get the exam results they want, it is not the end, you know. And just helping people to understand when they're making those choices, just look inside of them. Don't just do what you're told to do, what you're told you're good at, or what your parents want. Think about what it is that's going to fulfill you and be true to it and follow that path.
I'm just thinking, and I bet that's the same, you know, you're saying that to sixth formers. How lucky are they to be hearing that? Because I bet you have to say that to adult, you know, to 40, 50, 60-year-old people who have never really realised that they have that choice.
Yeah. And I think we've been watching that programme, 65 Up, is it? You know?
Amazing. I'm loving it.
Loving it. That's the key thing. Somebody was talking about it on the radio and they were saying what I found sad about it was the fact that people thought that's what their path was and that's the path they follow. And nobody's ever told them they can walk off on a different direction, you know. So for me, it's a very important message to just keep introspectively looking and checking, are you in flow, you know? Are you doing what you're meant to be doing on this planet? And I have this conversation for Uber drivers. I have it with Uber drivers more than anyone, because most Uber drivers I know, you know, are actually, they're either from different countries where they've had fantastic jobs and now they're here and scratching a living, you know, kind of just doing what they do and driving cars. Or you've got people that have got dreams and, you know, they're stuck earning money and not achieving their dreams. And I can't count how many Uber drivers I've said, you just go out there and do it. Just do it. You know, you don't need to be driving Ubers anymore.
But that's it. You've got to spread that. They get a full rallying session. Brilliant. So, Michelle, where can people find you if they want to get in contact with you and want to find out more or work with you or contact you? Where can people find you?
Well, there's only one Michelle Mills Porter on the planet.
Hooray! Of course.
My husband's couldn't put up with another. But yeah, there's only one Michelle Mills Porter. Mills Porter is hyphenated. So the best place is probably LinkedIn, because if you connect with me on LinkedIn and if you put in the message, because you can add a message on your invitation, and if you say that you've heard the podcast and you'd like to connect, then, you know, I'd love to be able to connect with people on there. That's probably the best first step.
Brilliant. Superb. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but part of me is almost glad that you did, because it's enabled you to bring that to so many people. No,
I appreciate that. And I think I say the same thing. When people say, oh, you were in the tsunami, that must have been dreadful. And I always say, yeah, but it was also the most enlightening time of my life. I wouldn't have had it any other way. And the reason that I believe that I wasn't in the first wave is because it saved me to be able to do something beneficial. So that's what I believe I'm doing something beneficial with what I've learned. Yeah, that's my role on this planet as far as I'm concerned, Kim.
Good girl. Keep doing it. We're loving it. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Wow, what an incredible story of life and death, fight and flight and bravery. So many raw emotions there listening to Michelle as we break down into those critical moments where we're in trauma. Her memories of waiting for that wave to come again really, really resonated with me. Sort of those post-traumatic stress moments of expectation of things going wrong again. Reminds me of some of the clients I work with where they're sort of in between treatments and they have hovering over them the shadow of disease and wondering if it's going to rear its ugly head again. And I loved seeing those remarkable versions of people that only come out in trauma. You know, the aspects of human kindness and the resilience and empathy, the ripple effects of a crisis like that Michelle witnessed, just really, really amazing. What it goes to show is that trauma humanizes us all and brings us all down to the safe level. And this is what Living Your Legacy is all about, trying to achieve an authentic place without the intervention of disease, trauma or crisis. Well done, Kim. That was brilliant.
So that's all for now. Go away, enjoy the rest of your day, and have a good think about it. We hope you enjoyed the Living Your Legacy podcast. If you did, subscribe and come back for the next one. If you didn't, well, there's no accounting for taste.